that from this whole week's deliberations that investing in boys and young men is critical for building future generations of men who are caring, responsible, nonviolent, and more engaged. We also know, evidence in fact shows us that adolescence is a very critical age when perceptions about sex, sexuality, relationships, gender roles, responsibilities are really starting to crystallize and take shape. Specifically referencing a WHO study some years ago that looked at adolescent boys, which points to all of these things. So we also, of course, want to support them in reaching their full potential, in addition to, of course, promoting gender equality and women and girls empowerment, but they themselves, of course, have to be supported. Excuse me. It's very dry in Delhi. I'm still adjusting to the climate. And, you know, this is also essential for social sustainability. We are hearing a lot now about sustainable development, and what do we mean by social sustainability? Well, future societies are societies that are diverse, equitable, more connected, democratic, and to me, social sustainability in the context of gender is really about building resilience around the gains that we've made around gender equality. So not slipping back and not losing that, and ensuring that we're able to sustain those achievements. It's essential that we invest in young men and boys. So what types of work and where? Well, there are different modalities, from working at the community level to advocacy and policy dialogue, but just as, again, a small glimpse of what we're doing. Campaigns, community mobilization, group education, and all of this is, of course, with our partners, national partners, whether it's the government or civil society organizations. But an essential part of a pathway to how we see reaching boys on all of these things we're talking about this week, gender equitable norms, values, breaking stereotypes, is through comprehensive sexuality education. And this is something that UNFPA is advocating for, particularly implementation of comprehensive, which means it's rights-based and gender responsive. And indeed, if it is so, then we are promoting all of those things that we're talking about are essential for gender justice. So just as an example, again, this is just a snapshot. In Nicaragua, we're working with actually young adolescents, boys aged 10 to 14, on challenging machismo to prevent sexual violence, but also to prevent adolescent pregnancy, in fact. Guatemala, we're engaging boys to be allies right alongside girls in rural indigenous communities. In Egypt, we're working with young men towards the abandonment of a harmful practice, female genital mutilation, and that's going on in other places as well. Throughout the Pacific, we are reaching boys, again, through sexuality education, and in other places as well. In Nigeria, we've just finalized the methodology to work with young men on gender-based violence prevention. And again, this is something we do a lot in terms of working with young men, particularly GBV prevention. Of course, there's always room for improvement, and this is how we plan to strengthen our work. As I said, by and large, a lot of our initiatives are working with adult men, but in general, one of the key challenges that we see and is been echoed many times throughout this week, and is not a new challenge, but certainly something we are all still grappling with, is this idea of scale and sustainability. And institutionalization is something that UNFPA has squarely placed in its strategic plan over the next few years to support. And as such, we're really trying to work with governments so that they buy into the approach, own the approach, and lead it themselves to address, again, this dual challenge of scale and sustainability. They are essentially the duty bearers, to use the human rights language. They're the duty bearers and should really be the ones that champion scaling up the pioneering work that we've heard about today, in fact, on this panel. We really would like to find ways to promote intergenerational dialogue amongst the older men and the young men and the boys within the programs that we work with. We've recently nearly completed a technical paper that really looks at the gender-related vulnerabilities that adolescent boys specifically face, and that's building on a lot of the evidence and program examples that have been laid out in the past few years. We're working with Promundo US on that. And we really think, of course, innovation and using new media is such a critical way to reach boys. Studies of all the program evaluations show that we should reach men and boys where they are. And in fact, using innovation and new media is a critical approach for that. And for that, it's a good segue for me to introduce Anne, who will talk about one of the initiatives that UNFPA has supported in terms of the work with boys. So very quickly, the Breakaway game is something we developed with Champlain College and the Emergent Media Center, which is based in the United States, to reach boys age 8 to 15 years. But of course, girls have also played the game. And it's a video game that uses football to reach boys and of course girls on messages that address really violence against women and girls. So I welcome Anne to please come up and tell us about Breakaway, which has been recently evaluated, and she's going to touch on that.
Thank you, Layla. Thank you, your colleagues from the UNFPA, and all this audience here. I come to you mainly as a media person and as a teacher. I've been teaching for 30 years, starting with little ones and now in the college realm. So it's wonderful to see this audience here all engaged with youth to make change. I totally agree that if we really want to make sustainable impact, it's youth we have to move the needle with, because they're the ones that carry it forward. Breakaway, as Layla was saying, was developed with the UNFPA by about 120 of my students who are video game designers. In the US right now, there's a big controversy about video games because they are often quite the opposite and hypersexualized and very violent. So having even my own students design this game with the specialist was a learning experience there. The game is, however, part of a larger initiative and a toolkit that we've developed, which includes a facilitator guide that works with the game. All of this is free online. It's also available from Layla or the UNFPA country offices as a CD package. And a bit about the game. Let's see here. I'll go back. A bit about the game. It is a game in which it's in chapters, like a soap opera or a storybook. And each end of a chapter leaves the player with a question on how they would behave towards women and girls in their lives. And in particular, what it does, and I think I attended the Peace and Violence session yesterday about how our boys are taught before even to read how to play with a gun. And so instead, and how girls aren't allowed to play that game with them. And this game is about letting the girl into the playing field with the boys, and in this case, football. So through their choices, they make decisions on how they're going to treat the girls in the game on the soccer field. A girl gets onto an all-male team. And in the ultimate chapter, it goes through different issues from harassment to bullying to violence, although it's not depicted, and then, depending on your choices, abduction of the female player. So those are the issues it deals with in the game. So with the toolkit and with the game, one of my students is from Hebron, Palestine, and I like the idea of working with governments, working with the mayor of Hebron, Palestine. He conducted youth camps in Hebron, and from that, we were very surprised. He got university students there to work with the children, and they didn't even agree that women could play sports, but they did agree that it was about respect for a choice. And at first, some of the boys wouldn't even participate in the facilitated discussions. But in the end, because they were allowed to play the game and they were treated with respect, which I think is very important, they came back into the discussions and even played football with the girls in the end. From that, we took it to El Salvador. Again, another initiative from one of my students. And El Salvador has one of the highest rates of femicide in the world. It also is a very big gang violence area. And in this case, we partnered with the university there, UNDP, and also the municipalities of Sonsonate. So again, having that community approach to adopting it, I think is very powerful. There, we were, our goal there is to train up facilitators, and the facilitators ranged in age from 17 to 25 or 30, roughly. So not only is the game for the youngers, but it also has a program for training up the young adults, so that as a community, they can take it further. There, based on our experience in El Salvador, we were able to do a study, and I'm just going to skip through this quick. And what happens in a game is actual behaviors are modeled. And so out of the study, one of the questions we ask is for the children to show an example of bullying and how they've learned to deal with it. And here's an example. You can see Reina is the female soccer player who might be abducted and is definitely bullied. And here they're saying, "Calm down, boy, everybody can play." This is the children's responses. And here I will try to ignore her. Oops. And so what we saw in our study was this movement from awareness of gender-based violence and disrespect through all the way up to becoming champions. The other wonderful thing is the facilitators themselves became some of our biggest champions, and Facebook grew. So bringing back in that interconnected media piece, Facebook grew to over 4,000 followers during that time period in El Salvador, and they're still active. I just got an email or Facebook post last night, and they've asked us, we're returning this year, again invited by the municipalities, by the facilitators, and we've raised funds to create a sustainable model so they can continue. The last thing I want to say, it's the connection of the overarching package that can be implemented on the local level that's really important and across age ranges, so you get a platform for change. And it's free, available for your use. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you, so much. This was really, really exciting, and also for bringing up the importance of working with adolescents and also including on sexual and reproductive health. And of course, the games and the innovation that you showed in the end was really, really exciting. And I think we need to bring out all the examples that we have, and also using the social media and the Facebook. Within Save the Children, we usually use this snake and ladder game, if you know, yeah, in the community. So we have that as a way of raising awareness about gender equality, and also I think the community of the street theater and is other examples. So now we have a few minutes left for questions to the panelists. I will allow a few questions. I think we take 3 questions, and then we'll ask the panelists to respond. Do we have a microphone?
Hi, I'm Preeti from Self-Employed Women Association, in short, SEVA. My question is towards Amrendra Kumar. Amrendra, we are also working in Bihar. हम लोग बिहार में काम करते हैं. I'm based out of भागलपुर. मैं भागलपुर में based हूँ, और हम लोग women group के साथ काम करते हैं. और recently हम लोगों ने male involvement पे काम करना शुरू किया है. We recently have we are involving male and boys, men and boys actually. So आपने एक चीज़ कहा था कि 15% का आप लोग एक ग्रुप बनाते हो at village level, block level and district level. So like पंचायत लेवल में आप एक ग्रुप बनाते हो 15 लोगों का. तो जहाँ पे दोनों का इक्वल पार्टिसिपेशन होता है, बॉयज़ एंड गर्ल्स इक्वल पार्टिसिपेशन इज देयर. सो विल यू प्लीज़ लेट मी नो कि कैसे आप मतलब बॉयज़ एंड गर्ल्स क्या बिना हेजिटेशन का वो लोग पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं या फिर पहले हेजिटेट करते थे और अभी नहीं करते हैं, तो ये आपने कैसे दूर किया? It's like my question is, they have a group of 15% at panchayat level where there is a equal participation of boys and girls. So my question is whether there was hesitation at first level in doing interaction, I mean on both sides. So please.
Yeah, I think we start immediately with the question. Or maybe we take a few while you're translating. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. My name is Ben Saunders from an organisation called Grassroots Soccer South Africa. Yeah, it's a comment for the breakaway presentation. But I mean, I think it's a fantastic initiative and a great way to engage boys and men. And I think maybe one of the gaps in the conference has been, I've seen there's been very little discussion about the use of sport and recreation as a way to engage boys and men as an entry point. We run soccer-based interventions with boys and girls. In fact, we have more girls playing soccer in our program than boys in South Africa and Southern Africa. But what we've seen that participation in sport and physical activity results in like improved education outcomes, reduced likelihood of experiencing violence. But my question was, has the game improved people's boys and girls' likelihood to actually play football? And have there been any benefits from that? Because a report has just been released saying that for the first time, this generation is going to live 5 years less. It's the first time in the last 100 years that life expectancy is going to go down based on the rise of non-communicable diseases, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and a lot of that's connected to a lack of physical activity. So I mean, it's great to have a video game that addresses these issues, but I think first prize would actually be getting them to actually physically play sport and learn values at the same time. I mean, the two can obviously be combined, but I wanted to know if you've actually seen any of that happening. Thanks.
So let's collect one more question. I think over here was first.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. My question is to the Save the Children presentation from Uganda, that you have mentioned that you use the random assignment for the young parents. So what kind of random assignment do you give to the young parents? If you just elaborate a bit, it will help us, because we are also in the process of involving the young couple in the campaign on violence against gender, based on gender. And the second question is, you have said that introducing YOLO card for encouraging the young couple, is it recognized by the whole community, or how does it affect? YOLO card, it's a very good concept if we can use it in our field. So it's my second question. And my friend asked to Rabiul, do they have any website? Because it was not in the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think we start with the three questions. So first to Amendra, he got the first question.
बोले हैं कि उस समय बहुत हिचकिचाहट आता था, उसको हम लोग बुला कर लाते थे, खिलाते थे। 1 घंटा हम लोग को शाम को टाइम मिलता था। उसमें एक बच्चों को ऊपर एक CRF होते हैं जो 15 बच्चों को देख रेख करते हैं, उसमें बुलाकर खेल खेला जाता था। उसका आदत लगा, बहुत सी ऐसी चैलेंज होती थी कि नहीं, माँ कहती थी, पापा कहते थे कि नहीं हमारी बेटी हो या बेटा नहीं जाएगा वहाँ, ऐसे चैलेंज आते थे.
So there was a lot of challenge in terms of mobilizing them, bringing them together. That's the initial challenge, and there was also a lot of hesitation among these boys to discuss. So they used to engage them in play, games, etc. And gradually they become habituated for that. So they used to think that now I'm going to play and engage in game, etc. Because they had only 1 hour time to have this kind of gathering and meeting. So it took time to break that silence, and gradually now they are started kind of a normal grouping.
Thank you very much. And the next question was to Leila and Anne.
Sure. I don't know if this is. Can you hear me back there? Okay. It's okay. It's all right. Oh, there we go. So the question was about breakaway in sports for an example, and I totally agree that sports can be a very healthy expression, a way for children. I mean, I think in the United States we have cut down playtime, which I think is really bad. And one of the things that's wonderful to see in the camps is the children actually playing soccer or football together. In the end, playing with girls, playing with boys, which was an amazing thing that happened in Hebron, which we did not expect at all, where Mahmoud said that even he wasn't allowed to get out of a taxi with his female colleagues because of the gender differences in Palestine. So I can't really say whether it's increased their love of football, but when we designed the games, we realized that football is an incredibly universally popular game around the world, whether they're playing with rag balls or soccer balls. And in the United States itself, when the act was passed that allowed funding, that insisted that girls have sports in their high schools, it made a big difference in gender in the United States and how we anticipate that. So the game itself, and one last thing to Ben, we started the project in South Africa, so it is really a universal game, and that's where we came up with the idea of football as the theme. There's CDs at the UNFPA booth if people want to pick up CDs with the facilitator's guide and the game. There's postcards here with the website on them. The game currently is available in English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. My dream would be to have it in other versions, and it could even be a card game for that instance for places that can't have computer technology. It's at the lowest level of technology, so that it can be played in very poor schools as well.
Just to add that it's also online, and you can find the postcard here. It's breakawaygame.com. Just to add, though, we did a series of advocacy briefs with Men Engage, UNFPA and Men Engage, and on our website you can find actually from the series, one of the briefs is on working with men and boys in the use of sports and recreation, and takes you through, some key advocacy messages and different examples of where it's worked and where it's worked well. So you can find the series of briefs on our website.
Thank you so much. And the last question was for Dickens.
Hello. The yellow card, we are yet to see whether the yellow card is really fully embraced by the community. We are going to follow these young people whom we have been working with after 18 months, and we shall be able to have, focus group discussions with them. But also we shall be having focus group discussion with what I call the significant others, other people who are really very close to the young father. But so far, with the group that we are working with, it seems to be so much acceptable. After all, it is just a tool which helps the two people. The two people are the ones who matter, the man, the young man, and his wife. And it seems to be, acceptable in the circles of the young father so far. The first question, the random assignment, we are just kind of using a scientific way of deciding that out of the 500 target group, who should participate in the control and in the study. But it doesn't, I don't think it is something that, one would want to use in selecting participants for the project. No, it was just for study purposes. And also for your information, we are going to turn back now to the control group. Now that we have finished with the study group, we are going to turn to the control group with the same, mentoring sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions. Sorry, there was one more. Yeah, sorry.
Miss, have you asked about the website of partner organization or?
Yes. Actually, your presentation PPT, there was no website.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it will be available. Actually, he prepared this one for showing his step by step how he involved in this process and what he is now. Yes.
The website of the organization.
Yes, they have, and that will be uploaded. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So 2 final questions. I think the man over here has been...
Thank you. Thank you very much. Luis Mora from UNFPA. And I have a question for Uganda and Bangladesh and India. When I'm going to be very, very honest. When listening to the presentation, one has the impression that everything in traditional societies is negative in terms of gender equality, in terms of women's and girls' rights. And we know that it's not like that. Know that traditional societies also have very strong protection systems or protection mechanisms, as regards to women and girls. So my question is, have you been able to also build on the existing protection systems, and also instead of, just bringing, new proposals or new initiatives and taking into consideration what it's already positive in this cultural context in order to build on that.
Thank you. And then one final question over there, and then we leave it to the panelists to answer.
Yeah, thank you. My question is for the Real Fathers Initiative. You talked about the significant others and their influence. And I agree that they have a very strong influence on the core people that we are working with. How did you deal? What were the challenges, and what were some of the things that you worked on most?
Okay. Yeah.
My friend, my brother from UNFPA, somehow from my presentation, because of the time, it's quite limited. But you shouldn't go home, with the perception that possibly the cultural practices have been put at bay. In community mobilization, before we start these activities, we do thorough community mobilization, meeting with gatekeepers in the community. And I want to say with this particular project, we thought we would work with civic leaders. They failed in mobilizing young people. So what we did was we explained the project, reflected on the project with the cultural leaders. We call them the road queries. So they are the ones who went and successfully mobilized young people because they saw that this project has got a lot of value. The other thing is that among the mentors are already people who offer mentoring in the community, and some of them are cultural leaders, traditional leaders, And in one of the celebrations, one leader said, 2 leaders actually I want to quote. One of them said, I saw what this project has brought in. Although I don't fall in that category, I also went to the mentor because I also want to get some of the skills that the project has come with. So he's kind of agreeing to use the new skills that are coming to blend with the traditional skills. Community celebrations, this other poster here. We do a community celebration where the whole community comes. And in one of the community celebrations, an old woman who is a grandmother to the children of one of the young fathers said, at least now I can sleep. Because all the time my work has been to stop fights between my son and his wife. You see the point? So they are kind of trying to say, and it's now our responsibility to pick some of those positive values in the community and blend with the project. And that is why we are having a bit of discussion, even yesterday with our colleagues from the US, that we are moving to a pastoral community. I told them it's a totally different setup. Cultural values there are completely different. So we are kind of taking care of that. The other point is the significant others. From the quick evaluation that we have done, and also from the day-to-day implementation, we have realized that there are significant others who matter. Initially, when we started, we had not put them in our arena, in our agenda. But in the refinement of the curriculum, this curriculum here, in refining the curriculum, we are now kind of saying, right from the onset, the young father in the discussion with the mentor should be able to identify people who really closely matter in his relationship with his wife. I want to give you one example. Some of the young fathers, about 2 or 3 of them, separated with their wives because the father-in-law of the young father called back the girl and said, "You have not paid dowry. Okay? You have not paid dowry, the girl has got to come back." He's a significant other. But if you involve him at the beginning, then he will be able to appreciate. One of the in-laws in the same category allowed his daughter, he said, "You go back. Since this man is going to get mentoring, maybe he's going to change." And now the young man is working out, ways of, getting some gifts and taking it to the family. So we are now, in the process of designing strategic ways of involving the significant others in the home of the young father, but also, with his in-laws. The other significant others are the slightly older young fathers. Traditionally, who should have been able to introduce their colleagues, they are at the age of 26, 27 to 30. They are a little bit uncomfortable with this new development. And we are now kind of trying to figure out the group session with them, such that they don't sabotage and isolate these young fathers. Because traditionally, they were supposed to socialize these young fathers into fatherhood and interact with them, So that is where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's hear from India and Bangladesh also about how we can work on positive cultural values in our work, to give some examples. If you want to add something, it's... Yeah?
Actually, all men are not violent. And this is true. And thus, the socialization process we went through and come here, that actually create a lot of pressure of these good people who are not violent to keep silence. This is the very challenging thing for us. During our implementation, during our work, we have found that there is a lot of people who are very much interested to do this kind of good work, but didn't get this opportunity. We have to knock them. We have to introduce with other people. We have to show their example. And through this Alliance for Change project, we have some intervention. I just talked to him, and what he did, there is a religious leader, in Bangladesh, very much pressure one very important and pressure group, and they are not much easy to get to take this kind of job, but they can do it. They did it actually. They took them in their group. They provide them training, technical support, give a lot of information, build capacity building, and now they are promoting here today. One of our religious leader, Mr. Mustaqim, used to be here, but due to this visa problem, he is not here. But if he will be there, then you will get the sense actually that existing what we have these good things in our society that can be a validation in our work also. and it is, and we are doing like this. We are working on them. So in our community, there is a lot of more protection mechanism. You know, several community groups, youth groups, boys group, girls group. There is a government, some groups is there also. So we are trying to bring those people who are in silence mode in this group. And this is our also, though it is not very much easy, but we are doing, and some extent we have succeeded. And we have this evidence. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you so much. Does anybody want to add something before we wrap up? You're all fine? So thank you very much. And I would really like to thank the panelists and all of you. And what we really wanted to get through in this panels was that we need to work from a life cycle approach. If we want to change harmful gender relations and gender discrimination and violence, we need to start when children are small, and we need to continuously working. We talked a lot about adolescents, we talked about father, and also in the end, the grandfathers was mentioned. And also we need, in the work with men and boys, we also need to partner with girls and women. And we also talked about the importance of starting with ourselves. That's what highlighted by the two boys. And in parallels, mobilizing the community and then taking it to scale by involving the government and other actors. And we also talked about the importance of social working with sexuality and gender relations among the adolescent. And we also gave a lot of examples on innovative examples, because we need to contextualize those examples in order to be relevant for different community. And we also talked about the whole area of gender transformation is so key. It's not just being gender sensitive, but it's actually transforming gender roles and perceptions of masculinities. And unfortunately, we didn't have the speaker on the post-2015, because we also wanted to highlight that we really make to ensure that we have a target on working with men and boys, and that we have indicators on that in the post-2015, because the next Millennium Development Goal, which will be called the Sustainable Development Goal, needs to have that in place in order to allocate resources, but also to have specific targets and indicators, so that we get governments involved and we also measure the change that we see by working and involving men and boys. So thank you all very much. Thank you. It was great. Thank you so much.